All right, guys. So next up, we're going to jump right into the moon signs. And again, this is the place in your birth chart, the place in the sky, in the zodiac, where the moon was at the exact date, time, and place of your birth. All right. So let's get right into it. Let me grab a sip of water first, because I'm sure with all of this spring air, my allergy voice might not be sounding the best. So, moon in Aries. Of course, we're going to start at Aries because Aries is at the beginning of the zodiac. So, when your moon sign is in the sign of Aries, this is giving you an independent nature. Absolutely loves challenges, wants to take everything on, multiple things. Does not like emotional displays. Does really prefers to be more aloof and more just kind of upbeat. Doesn't really know how to handle it. Okay, prefers all of their loved ones to be very self-sufficient. And so that they don't need to rely on them as much, okay, because of their independent nature. But they do have a sixth sense. They're very spontaneous. They themselves have very changing, waffling emotions, all right? And they can be very impatient and reckless, and also very direct in communication, blunt and direct. That is an Aries moon sign. All right. Next, we have our moon in Taurus. Now, again, this is highlighting love of pleasure, of food, of music, texture, textile things, money, love, creativity. They're generous. They're also very trustworthy, patient, and loyal. Now, this might not so much apply to someone who's a little bit younger. If they have a moon in Taurus. But as they get older, they grow into that moon sign and do become a little bit more patient and loyal. When they're young, it's more all about chasing that pleasure, and just kind of acting like a bull and charging full horns down, full charge ahead after what they want. Okay. Next up, moon in Gemini. Now, moon in Gemini is going to make a person or lend to the qualities of being very clever, loving to learn, reading, loving news, being very flirty, being very social, open-minded, witty, quick-witted, of course, very smart, very adaptable, but a little flighty and distracted, okay? That's kind of one of the qualities of all air signs, but Gemini seems to have it the most. Okay, next up we have moon in Cancer. So this is going to make one be more sensitive, loyal, protective, intuitive, nurturing. Again, that mother energy. So maternal or paternal, but just very protective and domesticated. Just they love anything that has to do with home and family. That's where they are in their element. They are the most comfortable. All right, next we have moon in Leo. So again, this is going to lend to that passionate, creative energy. They are really a lot of a show off. They are also very optimistic, and they're very generous. Their energy is also very quick and very passionate. Okay. Now, when someone has the moon in Virgo, they are detail oriented. They are patient, analytical, sensible, a little shy, believe it or not. That's the opposite, because usually a sun in Virgo doesn't really have too much shyness about them. But a moon in Virgo, definitely there's some shyness, a little withdrawn in there. Perfectionist energy, analytical and perfectionist and detail oriented. So they really will get down in and find the details of things that other people just don't have the time or the patience to find, okay? Next up is our moon in Libra. This lends to a very gracious energy, balanced, harmonious, creative, and peace-loving. They do not like anything to come in and disrupt the apple cart. They don't like over-the-top energy. They don't like really low, mellow energy. They just want everything to be smooth sailing all the time. So a little bit of rose glass, color glasses energy with a lot of moon in Libras, okay? Next up, we have moon in Scorpio. Moon in Scorpio is extremely intense. This is a detective energy. They themselves, though, can be very secretive. There's a sexy energy to this. They're very strong willed, very competitive, and very intuitive. You're not getting really anything past a moon in Scorpio. So you might as well not try. You might as well be pretty transparent with them. Yeah, because that sting of the Scorpion, okay, it's not as harsh as maybe the moon or the sun in Scorpio, but it's there. Okay, now we have the moon in Sagittarius, which again is going to be optimistic, idealistic, very happy-go-lucky, very honest, creative, and funny. This energy does not like to be slowed down, does not like to be around a lot of negative Nancy's, a lot of people, downers. And, you know, they'll be sympathetic for a short period of time, but they're the one that's always going to try to help you by finding the silver lining, by like pushing you toward, by trying to make you laugh, by, you know, being optimistic about things and upbeat about things. And sometimes people just aren't in the mood for that. You know, Sagittarius energy, fire energy especially, needs to understand that certain people need to be down and need to feel down and need to go through it. And their optimistic, sunny, happy-go-lucky, funny personality, they need to learn how to read the room a little bit, because it's not always it's gonna fall flat on some other type of personalities. All right. Mooning Capricorn, very cool and calm. Very surface level, like you cannot normally read their emotions on their face. They're very industrious, they are goal oriented, they have sometimes that detached kind of, you know, like they're observing from a higher perch or from afar at all the shenanigans going on with everyone else. They're very loyal and they are very responsible. And then, of course, we have the moon in Aquarius, which is going to be a very inventive, very quirky type energy, unconventional. Definitely there's rebellious energy there. This is the personality that if you tell them that XYZ needs to be done and in that order, they will do it ZYX with flair, just to prove to you that it can be done in a different way and you're not right. Your answer isn't the only right answer. They are also, though, very humanitarian, okay? They're thinking out, they're looking out on the broader scope. They're not so much concerned with personal stuff. They're looking out for everybody. They are trustworthy, visionary, very outgoing, and very friendly. But it's almost like people that start to learn Aquarian energy almost intentionally will push their buttons just to bring out that rebelliousness or just to bring out that unconventional, that quirk, so that either A, they can start an argument, which Aquarius always wins an argument or usually wins the argument, but also so that they can try to get that outgoing, friendly personality to shift really quick. Some people get amusement out of that. Once Aquarius is on to you about it, though, because they're not so much paying attention to you. They're paying attention to Moon in Aquarius, especially, is paying attention to what's going on in Ukraine right now. They're really not concerned about the fact that you're making fun of what they're wearing. Okay? And then finally, Moon in Pisces is very sensitive, emotional, compassionate. Again, a little bit of that rose-colored glasses energy, very vivid imagination. Unfortunately, they also have the tendency to delve into escapism when they are faced with too many problems or very difficult challenges that they just don't, or information that they just don't want to or just aren't ready to cope with. Moon in Pisces definitely does lend to escapism, escape in food, alcohol, drugs, shopping, again, fantasy novels, books, religion, anything than to actually deal with the practical matters at hand. All right, so that's kind of the overview description of those moon signs. So you'll notice they're similar to when the sun is in those signs, but they take on a little bit more of an intense or shadowy side, if you will, a little bit of a darker side when the moon is in those signs. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about our rising signs.